The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the small-town diner as 17-year-old Emma Rodriguez wheeled herself closer to the red vinyl booth where her friends were waiting. It was supposed to be a celebration. Their high school's drama club had just won first place at the regional theater competition, and Emma had delivered a show-stopping performance as the lead actress. Despite being confined to a wheelchair since a car accident 2 years prior, Emma refused to let her disability define her limitations. Tonight, she felt invincible. "Emma, you were absolutely incredible up there," her best friend Sarah exclaimed, sliding over to make room at the booth. "The way you delivered that final monologue had everyone in tears, including the judges." Emma's face lit up with pride as she maneuvered her wheelchair into position beside the table. The diner was bustling with the usual Friday night crowd, families celebrating Little League victories, couples on dates, and groups of teenagers like themselves savoring the freedom of youth. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, filled with the comforting sounds of clinking silverware, soft conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter. "I still can't believe we won," Emma said, her voice filled with genuine excitement. "When I first auditioned, I was so nervous about whether they'd even consider me for the lead role. But Mrs. Henderson believed in me from the very beginning." Her drama teacher had indeed been a source of unwavering support, adapting stage directions and working tirelessly to ensure Emma could shine in her role. Tonight felt like validation of all their hard work, proof that dreams didn't have to be abandoned because of physical limitations. As the group of friends chatted animatedly about their victory, sharing milkshakes and reminiscing about the months of preparation that had led to this moment, Emma noticed a group of older teenagers entering the diner. There were 5 of them, all wearing leather jackets and carrying themselves with an air of arrogance that immediately shifted the atmosphere in their section of the restaurant. She recognized them from school. They were known troublemakers, the kind of students who thrived on intimidating others and had somehow managed to avoid serious consequences for their behavior. At first, Emma tried to ignore them, focusing instead on her friends' excited chatter about college applications and future plans. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong when she noticed one of the boys pointing in their direction and whispering to his companions. The looks they were giving her weren't friendly, and the familiar knot of anxiety began forming in her stomach. "Maybe we should head home soon," Emma suggested quietly, suddenly feeling vulnerable in a way she hadn't experienced in months. She had worked so hard to build her confidence back up after the accident, to prove to herself and everyone around her that she was still the same person, just with different challenges to navigate. "Already? But we just ordered dessert," her friend Mike protested. "Come on, Emma. This is our night to celebrate. You earned this." Before Emma could respond, one of the leather-jacketed teenagers approached their table with a swagger that immediately put everyone on edge. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with cold eyes that seemed to find amusement in other people's discomfort. His friends followed behind him, forming a semicircle around Emma's wheelchair in a way that felt deliberately intimidating. Well, look what we have here," the leader said, his voice dripping with mock sweetness. "If it isn't the school's little inspiration story. Tell me, how does it feel to win a competition when everyone's just feeling sorry for you?" Emma's friends immediately bristled, but she placed a calming hand on Sarah's arm, trying to defuse the situation before it escalated. She had dealt with ignorant comments before, though never quite so blatantly cruel. "We won because we worked hard and delivered a great performance," she said calmly, though her heart was racing. "Just like any other team would." "Oh, please," another boy chimed in, leaning closer to Emma's wheelchair. "Everyone knows they gave you that trophy because they felt bad for the poor little crippled girl. It's called charity, sweetheart. Don't let it go to your head." The words hit Emma like a physical blow, undermining months of progress and self-acceptance in a matter of seconds. She felt the familiar sting of tears threatening to spill over, but she was determined not to give these bullies the satisfaction of seeing her break down. Around the diner, other patrons had begun to notice the commotion, but most seemed uncomfortable intervening, unsure of how to handle the escalating situation. "You need to leave us alone," Sarah said firmly, standing up from the booth with her fists clenched. Emma earned her place in that competition fair and square. She's 10 times more talented than any of you will ever be. The lead bully laughed, a harsh sound that drew even more attention from nearby tables. Talented? At what, exactly? Rolling around the stage and making people feel uncomfortable? Face it, princess, he said, directing his attention back to Emma, you're nothing more than a pity case. A broken toy that people pretend to care about because it makes them feel good about themselves. Emma felt her world crashing down around her as the words sank in. Every insecurity she had worked to overcome came flooding back with devastating force. Was he right? Had her victory been legitimate, or were people simply afraid to compete honestly against someone in a wheelchair? The questions that had haunted her darkest moments after the accident came roaring back to life, threatening to undo all the progress she had made. Just as the situation seemed to be spiraling completely out of control, the front door of the diner swung open with authority. A group of 6 men entered, all wearing matching leather jackets with patches and pins that immediately commanded respect. They were older, more mature, with the kind of presence that suggested they had seen real challenges in life and emerged stronger for it. Emma's eyes widened in disbelief as she recognized the man leading the group. It was Mr. Patterson, her high school shop teacher, followed by several other faculty members she knew well. There was Coach Williams from the football team, Mr. Rodriguez from the math department, and 3 other teachers she had seen around campus but hadn't personally worked with. What were they doing here, and why were they dressed like some kind of motorcycle club? The lead bully seemed to shrink slightly as the group of men approached, though he tried to maintain his aggressive posture. "This is a private conversation, old man," he said to Mr. Patterson, though his voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. Mr. Patterson stepped forward, and Emma was struck by how different he seemed outside of the classroom. Gone was the mild-mannered teacher who patiently helped students with woodworking projects. In his place stood a man who clearly commanded respect and wouldn't tolerate injustice in any form. "Actually, son, this became everyone's business the moment you decided to harass one of our students in a public place." "Your student?" the bully scoffed, though Emma could hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice. "What are you, some kind of teacher biker gang?" Coach Williams stepped up beside Mr. Patterson, and Emma remembered hearing rumors that he had served in the military before becoming an educator. "We're teachers who happen to ride motorcycles in our spare time," he said calmly. "But more importantly, we're adults who don't stand by when we see children being bullied and humiliated." The atmosphere in the diner had completely shifted. What had been a scene of intimidation and cruelty was now something entirely different. Emma watched in amazement as these men she knew as mild-mannered educators revealed another side of themselves, protectors who refused to tolerate the mistreatment of those under their care. "Emma Rodriguez is one of the most talented and hard-working students I've ever had the privilege to teach," Mr. Patterson continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being heard. "She earned her place in that competition through dedication, skill, and raw talent. Her disability has nothing to do with her achievements, except perhaps to make them more impressive given the additional challenges she's had to overcome." The lead bully looked around nervously, suddenly realizing that the entire diner was watching the confrontation and that public opinion had decidedly turned against his group. "Look, we were just having a little fun. No harm done, right? No harm done?" Coach Williams stepped forward, and Emma could see decades of experience dealing with young people who thought they could intimidate others without consequences. "You think attacking a young woman's character and achievements in front of her friends and a room full of strangers constitutes a little fun?" Emma felt a surge of gratitude and empowerment as she watched her teachers stand up for her in a way that went far beyond their professional obligations. These men didn't just see her as a student to be pitied or protected, they saw her as a person deserving of respect and dignity. "I think it's time for you boys to leave," Mr. Patterson said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "And I strongly suggest you think carefully about how you treat others in the future. Actions have consequences, and the adults in this community are watching." The bullies, clearly outmatched and embarrassed by the turn of events, began backing toward the exit. But the lead bully couldn't resist one final attempt at salvaging his wounded pride. "This isn't over," he muttered, though the threat sounded hollow and desperate. "Actually, it is," Mr. Rodriguez from the math department spoke up for the first time, his quiet authority somehow more intimidating than any raised voice could have been. "Because if we hear about you bothering any student again, you'll be dealing with more than just a group of concerned teachers. You'll be dealing with school administration, your parents, and quite possibly law enforcement. Choose wisely." As the group of bullies slunk out of the diner, tails between their legs, the tension in the air began to dissipate. But Emma was still processing what had just happened, struggling to make sense of the incredible turn of events that had transformed her worst nightmare into something approaching a miracle. Mr. Patterson approached Emma's table, his demeanor shifting back to the gentle teacher she knew from school. "Are you all right, Emma? I'm sorry you had to deal with that nonsense." Emma looked up at him, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks, but these were different tears, tears of relief and gratitude rather than humiliation and despair. "Mr. Patterson, what are you all doing here? And those jackets?" Coach Williams chuckled, pulling up a chair to sit at Emma's eye level. "We're part of a motorcycle club called the Guardians. We're all educators who ride together on weekends and try to give back to the community. We heard about your drama competition win through the school grapevine and thought we'd stop by to congratulate you on your way home from our ride." "The Guardians?" Sarah asked, still somewhat stunned by everything that had transpired. "Teachers by day, bikers by weekend," Mr. Rodriguez explained with a smile. "But always educators at heart. We believe in standing up for our students, no matter where we encounter them." Emma wiped her eyes, feeling a profound shift in her understanding of what it meant to be part of a community. "I can't believe you did that for me. Those guys, what they were saying. I was starting to believe maybe they were right." Mr. Patterson's expression grew serious as he leaned forward. "Emma, I want you to listen to me very carefully. What those boys said to you was not just wrong, it was the kind of ignorant cruelty that comes from people who are afraid of others who show more courage and determination than they could ever imagine. Your victory in that competition was earned through talent, hard work, and dedication," Coach Williams added. "The fact that you've achieved what you have while navigating additional challenges doesn't diminish your accomplishments, it amplifies them." Emma felt something powerful stirring within her, a renewed sense of self-worth that felt stronger and more authentic than anything she had experienced since her accident. These men, her teachers, her protectors, saw her for who she really was, not a victim to be pitied, but a young woman with extraordinary potential. "Thank you," she whispered, the words carrying the weight of months of struggle and self-doubt. "Thank you for seeing me as more than just my wheelchair." "Emma," Mr. Patterson said gently, "we don't see you as your wheelchair at all. We see you as a talented actress, a dedicated student, and a young woman with the courage to pursue her dreams despite facing challenges that would stop most people in their tracks. That's who you are, and that's who you've always been." As the group of teacher bikers prepared to leave, each one stopped to congratulate Emma on her competition victory and to remind her that she had a network of support that extended far beyond the classroom. The other patrons in the diner, who had witnessed the entire confrontation, began approaching Emma's table to offer their own words of encouragement and congratulations. An elderly woman who had been sitting nearby came over with tears in her eyes. "Honey, I watched those boys try to tear you down, and I watched you handle it with more grace and dignity than most adults could manage. You should be proud of who you are." A middle-aged man stopped by to shake Emma's hand. "My daughter has cerebral palsy, and she struggles with confidence sometimes. When I tell her about what I witnessed tonight, about your strength and the way your teachers stood up for you, I know it will inspire her to keep pushing forward." As the evening wound down and Emma's friends prepared to take her home, she felt fundamentally changed by the experience. The cruel words that had initially devastated her had been transformed into stepping stones toward a deeper understanding of her own worth and the power of community support. "You know what?" Emma said to her friends as they gathered their belongings. "I think I want to start a support group at school for students facing different kinds of challenges. Not just disabilities, but anyone who feels like they don't fit in or who's dealing with bullying. Sarah smiled, squeezing Emma's hand. That's a brilliant idea. And I know exactly who would support us. Apparently we have a whole motorcycle club of teachers who believe in standing up for what's right. Emma laughed, the sound bright and genuine in a way it hadn't been in months. Who would have thought? The Guardians. I love that. As they left the diner that night, Emma carried with her a renewed sense of purpose and belonging. She had learned that her worth wasn't defined by the limitations others tried to place on her, but by the courage she showed in pursuing her dreams and the community she had built around herself through authenticity and determination. The bullies had intended to break her spirit, to convince her that her achievements were hollow and her dreams unrealistic. Instead, they had inadvertently provided her with one of the most powerful lessons of her young life, that there are people in the world who will stand up for what's right, who will see past surface differences to recognize the strength and potential in every individual. From that night forward, Emma approached her life with a confidence that was unshakable because it was built on truth rather than false bravado. She knew that she would face challenges and ignorance again, but she also knew that she was not alone in facing them. She had her friends, her family, her teachers, and most importantly, she had an unbreakable belief in her own worth. The support group she started at school became one of the most successful programs in the district's history, helping dozens of students find their voices and stand up against bullying and discrimination. Emma went on to earn a full scholarship to a prestigious university's theater program, where she continued to break barriers and inspire others with her performances and advocacy work. Years later, when Emma was asked about the night that changed everything, she would always mention the teachers who showed her that being different wasn't something to overcome, it was something to celebrate. The Guardians had taught her that true strength comes not from conformity, but from the courage to be authentically yourself in a world that often demands otherwise. That night in the diner, what began as an attempt to tear down a young woman's dreams became instead the foundation for a lifetime of advocacy, achievement, and hope. Sometimes the darkest moments reveal the brightest lights, and sometimes the people who seem ordinary in everyday life are actually heroes waiting for the right moment to reveal their true nature. Emma learned that evening that she was surrounded by guardians, both the obvious ones who wore leather jackets and rode motorcycles, and the subtle ones who showed up in unexpected ways to remind her of her worth. Most importantly, she learned that she herself was a guardian, capable of protecting and inspiring others through her example of resilience and authentic living. What did you think of Emma's inspiring story? Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where someone unexpected stood up against bullying? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you enjoyed this heartfelt tale of courage, community, and standing up for what's right, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with friends and family who might be inspired by Emma's journey. Don't forget to subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more stories that celebrate the power of human resilience and the unexpected heroes who walk among us every day. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that might change your perspective or brighten your day. Remember, every person you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about. Choose kindness, stand up for others, and never underestimate the power of believing in someone's dreams. Until next time, keep sharing those heartfelt tales that remind us all of the good in this world.